why did that one kid get expelled? For lifting up his shorts and exposing his balls through the leg hole to the principal, while said principal was escorting potential investors for the school. Playing kickball in gym class, kid kicked his shoe off, and his bag of weed came flying out, right to the teacher's feet. I was in the theater department back in high school. One day at the beginning of our acting class, the teacher came in and told us all to sit down. This one kid sat in the middle of the front row, and as he took his seat, his glass weed pipe fell out of his pocket and clattered to the floor. Everyone is silent for a moment. Then the teacher just goes, "Alright. I'm gonna go out in the hallway for 30 seconds. Then I'm gonna come back in and we'll try this again." Walked out, walked back in 30 seconds later like he said, saw that the pipe was no longer in evidence, and class proceeded like normal. Or as close to normal as theater classes ever get. He stabbed another kid with a letter opener he made in shop class. We didn't make letter openers in shop class after that. Edit, this was in junior high in the mid 90s. Y'all reminded me of the time a different kid got expelled for writing fanfic about kidnapping and torturing the cheerleading team. Thought he was funny and decided to grab the SRO, student resource officer's, gun. Our SRO also happened to be part of SWAT. He did this as we all left end of day, crowded hall. I remember this vividly over 20 years later. This was also post Columbine by like a month. Kid got slammed into a wall, put in cuffs, arrested and expelled immediately. Peeing on a teacher who wouldn't let him go to the bathroom. A girl changed her tampon in the corner of the classroom to prove a point. She was suspended pending expulsion, but her dad was a lawyer. A week later, any girl who wanted to use the bathroom was allowed, no questions asked. Fast forward 2 months and guys were getting pissed that we couldn't use bathrooms either. So one guy got denied a bathroom 3 times in the 90-minute class. He walked up and peed in the trash can. He was expelled. I guess he missed the part where you need lawyer parents. Tackled and restrained by coaches after he grabbed a bat from the storage room with the intention of beating his pregnant math teacher with it. Kindergartner. Long list of threatening behaviors. Foster kid with every kind of past abuse. Told me he was going to shoot himself and then come shoot me. I refrained from pointing out his lapse and logistics. Planned a food fight that turned into a riot with property damage and then fled from the police. At a high school near me, 20 years ago, the senior class decided to have a food fight at lunch on the last day of classes 1 year. Turned into a riot with the school locked down for the whole afternoon, kids frantic on cell phones, even then, with their parents because they had no clue why this was happening, and the state police and about 20 other local law enforcement agencies deployed to the school. The school expelled 12 of the graduating seniors, very difficult to do for a public school, but not impossible, and barred about the same amount of others from taking part in graduation. He brought a gun to school and posted it on Snapchat, instantly got caught and expelled. Stupidest thing anyone has ever done, but also a blessing in disguise. My kid's school, kid posted on Instagram and Snapchat the threats with pictures of the gun. Tried to get all the kids in trouble for not going to school instead of getting the kid who made threats. Didn't go well for the school. Kid who made threats never returned, but we were never told if it was voluntary or not. He did get help though. They tried to tell us it's okay, the kid has a troubled home life. That's how all this starts. Running through the cafeteria at lunch, naked with a backpack on, that he set on fire. Him and his cousin beat up the deputy principal and tried to kill him with a spade, at school. No charges ended up being laid. Later went on to kill a tourist during the 2000 New Year's and dump his body in the harbor. Edit, brothers, not cousins. Memory is a little hazy after 23 years. I personally didn't know them but knew enough to stay the F away from them. They were known for being trouble kids. Our art teacher stopped the attack. He's a hero in my opinion. Well done sleuths for finding the articles. Here's one. A girl got drunk at a house party. Some guy ejaculated on her hair and took photos of it, as well as a few photos of her naked and unconscious. The girl's boyfriend went John Wick on the guy when he got emailed the photos by the guy. He was sent away for beating the shit out of this SA, who wasn't even given detention, and the girl's photos got sent around for years and people called her slut. Terrible school. Edit. I was away for 12 hours and this has kind of blown up. It was a big school, so if you think that it's your school, there's a chance it was. The guy knocked out most of the teeth of that bloke, and there was a long debate about whether it was justified. I reckon it was. Edit 2. This was in Australia, and I have no idea how any of the involved are now. I could ask, but don't want to. They were a couple of years above me. He just kept shitting his pants. There was nothing wrong with him. He just kept doing it. Same place, same time, every day. Right after recess when we lined up to go inside, he'd just let loose the fattest and wettest fart shit you'd ever heard, and it would echo through the silent hallway for literally everyone in the grade to hear. At first we thought it was just embarrassing for him, but by the time week 2 came around, we were all convinced he was doing it intentionally. I have no explanation because he was kicked out after like 3 months of consistently doing it. Edit. I nearly forgot. He would announce to everyone he shit himself too, by saying, and I quote, "Whoops. I pooped myself." So one of my mom's friends had a son that did this. He would decide he wanted to leave and shit his pants so his mom would come get him. His mom was so sweet and naive, she just picked him up over and over again without realizing he was playing her. She thought he was having stomach issues and or the teacher wouldn't let him go to the bathroom. Finally she was at her wit's end because she was tired of washing shit-stained clothes and missing so much work. My mom, a mother of 4, who could smell bullshit within a 10-mile radius, told her the next time he did it, to bring him a change of clothes, and send him back to class. She took my mom's advice and he never did it again. Happened in kindergarten. There was a kid named Dexter who had severe anger issues. Every day a small group of kids would get certain jobs to do around the classroom, such as line leader, table cleaner, etc. Dexter got the table cleaner position and he was absolutely livid since he wanted to be line leader. What started off as a screaming fit escalated into him throwing scissors around the class, biting the teacher's hand, shattering a window with his flying scissors, breaking the tank that housed the class gerbils, and just trashing the entire classroom. The rest of the students had to evacuate the class while the teacher and principal attempted to restrain him. Security had to get involved. Never saw him again after that day. Walked out of English class to talk to another kid in the hall. The teacher was real lax so she didn't care. He walked out to talk to this guy. Fight breaks out in the hall. Teacher runs out. Other teachers come help break up the fight. One teacher asks the kid that walked out class why they were fighting and he said, "He stole my Wii." Kid who left class was selling, and the kid in the hall tried to walk off without paying. Any other BS excuse would have just got him suspended. Flopped his D on another dude's shoulder, in his room at study hall. Boarding school is weird. That was a thing at my school. If you got a D placed on your shoulder, you were gay, until you put your D on someone else's shoulder. Middle school. He was really into Assassin's Creed, video game, and main character is an assassin. He also seemed like a slightly depressed edgy kid. I became friends with him during his last 2-3 weeks. He told me he wanted to make a cool stubby blade thing that shoots out of his sleeve like in the video game. I told him that would be cool, but I was never dumb enough to do it myself. He actually made it and brought it to school. We spent a couple of days of recess and lunch running around and I watched him terrorize some of the kids, including myself. I never thought he'd harm anyone though. Someone must have told on him. School supervisor guy came in, asked for him and his backpack, and he never came back. I think I saw him a few years later and he thought I was the one that told on him. I tried to deny it but didn't want to risk getting into an argument. He kicked my friend in the ash so hard it broke his tailbone. He literally broke my friend's ash. A friend of a friend broke his finger after sticking it on another dude's ash. Not related, but wanted to say it anyways. Guy grew up doing Muay Thai, boxing and wrestling. Forgot where he was during a wrestling match and threw a spinning back fist that knocked his opponent clean out. He was completely mortified once he realized what he did. Straight A student. star athlete, and genuinely good guy. The class president even addressed it and organized protests and walkouts until he was reinstated. Even the guy that got knocked out and his parents forgave him and supported us. He did get reinstated but wasn't allowed to wrestle or box anymore. Not sure what the coaches pulled to allow him to play football. He eventually quit football to his senior year and was never really the same. So it didn't happen to me, but my friend was expelled for taking a sit in the teacher's purse. Russian exchange student in high school chased a squirrel, caught it, it bit him, so he swung it by the tail against a tree. He was expelled for having a detailed map of the school with locations where he wanted to place bombs, and a list of students he wanted to kill, and how he was going to do it. For spraying the fire extinguisher in the principal's face after he called him short. Threw a chair at a teacher after we'd all been violated by her. For context, it was junior high and this teacher for some weird reason loved rubbing our shoulders and backs. She did this to everyone and everyone hated it. She'd been asked to stop and even got reported to the board, but they did nothing. One day a girl who'd been ESSA in the past had enough and threw a desk at the teacher. Girl got expelled, but again nothing happened to the teacher. Last I heard she's still teaching and we're still treated like we were crazy. This was back in 2001. Really made lose faith in authority. He sprayed another student with Zippo fluid and was attempting to set the student on fire when he was tackled. I had a friend at my private school who basically got asked to take a year off. Spent that year at a private military school, shaping up. Told us later that one thing that helped him do that was learning that what he had done to get there was nothing compared to what some of his classmates did. One kid had, at a boarding school, locked another kid in his dorm room with tons of paper, then lit the paper on fire as a joke. He made a bomb threat online. Most of the school skipped out the day he did because they didn't want to blow up. I was one of the poor souls with no social media, so I came into school not knowing there was a frickin' bomb threat. I also had a mom who was unfazed and just told me, "You'll be fine. Go to class." When I called her, I didn't learn until the next day that he had been apprehended and expelled. What scared me was I knew him for years and he never seemed like the kind of person to go that far. He was a class clown, but I never thought he would take that as even a joke. Apparently he did have a bomb, but it thankfully never made it to the school grounds. Edit, spelling. Also, wow. I didn't imagine this would blow up like this. Thank you for the likes. However, I would like to say that while my mom made a mistake, that doesn't make her a bad parent. We have a really good relationship and I love her. She regrets the fact that she left me scared with little to no information, but she knew I would be fine. It was me who didn't know at the time. We had one kid that sit on a table and another kid ate it in high school. The sitter got expelled, but not the eater. Edit, I'm adding more details. These were both guys. There were a group of a few guys that thought it was cool to do things for actions like this. One of them also ate a live goldfish and took a shot of cum at a party. The eater was not expelled but I think suspended. He ended up going to Stanford. I have no clue what happened to the sitter. These people were in my grade. Small class, about 100 kids. This was around 2006 I believe. The final straw was when he lit a cigarette in French class and refused to put it out. Smoked it all. He was 13. I see him every now and again, and he's a mess. Baited a very mentally unwell homeless man into the school for the giggles. Man had a knife and after being refused fries from the school cafeteria threw a tantrum on the tables. Nobody was hurt but the kid was expelled for threatening future safety. The school made him take it down. And this was in 2012, but there used to be a video on YouTube of the incident. A guy in my dorm did this in college. He was drunk and let this homeless guy in, with the intention of letting him crash in his room. Got close enough to smell the doot, and decided he no longer wanted to let him in. Homeless guy trashed the lobby and scared the shit out of everyone. Sit in a trash can and left. Put laxatives in a pregnant teacher's coffee. She miscarried 2 days later. Effa was 12. Or the guy who brought a shotgun to school. Edit. Apparently, laxatives have very little correlation to miscarriages. Also, it is apparently called a stillbirth, not a miscarriage. Thank you for correcting me. Put a picture of his penis in the yearbook that led to an investigation that ultimately landed him and 3 buddies in jail. Did it actually go to print and distribution before they caught it? Something similar happened at one of our local high schools. This wasn't at my school and I never got the full details from my teacher, but from what I remember, think one of the seniors flashed his bits in one of the athletic team photos. While I get that it's something that needs to be taken seriously, it's also kind of funny, considering how poor quality yearbook photos were 30+ years ago. I don't remember how they resolved it, but I remember it was a major fiasco. Yep, it got printed and distributed, then they made us turn them all back in, and cut that page out, added a supplement and returned them. This was a smallish picture taken after a dance. The quote from the teacher was, "I thought it was his thumb," which did not reflect well on the kid in question. This was also like 25 years ago, so yeah, grainy as all get out. He started a fire in some backpacks. This was an elementary school like 91-92ish, and we were in like 2nd grade. After that no one was allowed to go into the hall unattended. Backpacks were in a weird corridor in the hallway outside the pod of classrooms. Another one was the only male cheerleader beat someone to pulp for making fun of him being a cheerleader. The fight was huge, interrupted all the classes, and hundreds of students watched this cheerleader in uniform just pummel this other guy. They ended up outside the school in the middle of the street. Several teachers had to step in and stop the fight. I believe the cheerleader would have killed the kid if someone didn't intervene. I beat the shit out of a teacher after he groped a friend. They investigated and fired him. They let me back the next year. I got expelled for a fight. Had to get a lawyer to get back into school. 25-30 people got suspended for a food fight. Had a friend get expelled for a fight with the star quarterback. He never went back to school. Rough year. This wasn't the official reason, but this kid's dad was piping down the principal's wife, so the faculty basically hazed this kid into getting expelled. They would make jokes about his clothes, hygiene, and home life, which didn't make sense, because this kid's family had a lot of money bags. He was a clean kid. The teachers bullying him finally made him crack, and in the middle of a big altercation with the principal in class, the kid yelled, "I'm glad my daddy is effing your wife. I'm just pissed he didn't give me a pass at her." The whole class lost it and the principal cried. This is one of my favorite stories. Setting: high school in a rural area many years ago. We were seniors. I'm in welding class one day, and I overhear a couple kids talking at one of the welding stations. Booths with concrete on 3 sides, open top, and a curtain behind you. I hear them talking about welding an object to the metal welding table. Of course I'm curious, so I peek around the corner and see they are both looking at a spray bottle of pressurized Axe body spray. I immediately realize this will go poorly, being a pressurized and flammable substance. So I butt in and say that's a bad idea. Both these idiots cut me off and tell me to F off. I played football against them and their rival high school, and we never got along super well. So I said, "Whatever, F you guys too," and walked across the room where I can see the teacher in their booth, and made myself look busy while watching these clowns. Sure enough, I didn't think they'd actually do it. I see the curtain shut, spark and boom. Flames shot out the top about 10 feet, and this idiot comes busting out of the booth like a character in a cartoon. Hair back up and shinged soot all over his face, and a big look of shock on his face. Teacher was red-faced and yelled at this moron for a solid 5 minutes and stormed out with both these guys. Last I heard they were expelled from that school. I will never forget that smell. Axe and burnt hair. Got drunk on contraband screwdrivers at lunch and went to driver's ed. Crashed into some school buses parked on the driving course. Class clown. Chemistry class. Dude caused another student's experiment to react violently and blinded her. Half a dozen students saw him do it and heard him say he didn't like her because she was smart. He was in prison 4 years later. Dead 6 years after that. He told everyone what tampons are for. Seems like that's not a reason to get expelled. Probably a school in the south. Bingo. Shelly was a girl in my sister's grade when we were in high school. It was a very strict Christian school. Shelly and Chris got caught kissing on campus. They got expelled and all of us in junior high and high school had to congregate for a student assembly, so Chris and Shelly could each publicly apologize in a speech to all of us for kissing on campus. Years later, there was understandably a state of upset among other students, as 2 teachers were caught French kissing on campus, while others kept walking around them. And nothing bad happened to the teachers. Rules for the kids, but the adults did not have to follow the same rules. The guy was intelligent and was overall a nice kid, and a good student, when I first met him. He got in with the popular crowd, who were a bunch of degenerate druggies. Watched him slowly fall down that slope, from junior high to high school where he would just smoke weed all day and skip class. Experimenting with harder drugs. He ended up body slamming a kid he was bullying and the kid snapped his arm in half. Pretty bad compound fracture. Got expelled for that. My mother is a nurse and looked after him a few times. He was in and out of the hospital for drug addiction and alcohol abuse. Not sure if he turned his life around or if he is dead, but I'm hoping he cleaned up his act and has found his peace. I remember we had this quiet kid, and people would pick on him. So one day in class, some fat kid was picking on him behind his desk, and quiet kid snapped, grabbed his pencil and jammed it through the fatty's arm. I never saw quiet kid again. Not sure if that meant he got expelled or what. My neighbor across the street was 3 years older. Practically a god to us. He was a very funny guy who also was a very good drummer. One day in the spring of his senior year he decided to pull a fire alarm at school. That was it. He was expelled. He eventually got a get, but this was when they were first starting out, so it took a couple of years. The last I heard he had been briefly married and divorced and was working as a cashier at the local drugstore and was living in his mother's basement. Dude got in a fight with a teacher who publicly shamed him in front of his class for not caring. The dude was dyslexic and struggled to read aloud in class. Didn't have any more apathy than 60% of teenagers in a mandatory class. I work as a teacher now and I still think, while extreme, she had no right to do that to him. He punched the prom queen. At prom. Right after she was crowned. Broken nose, blood all over the dance floor. I don't remember the actual theme. Everyone refers to it as the Carrie prom.